they know what they're doing. We know what they're doing, and I'm looking at the clock, and it's 10 until the show's over. But the bottom line is there's a significant amount of information here. I guess we'll have to someday do a different show. The first born genetically altered humans are teenagers now in the United States. Go read Dr. Joseph Mercola talking about genetically modified humans. And Mercola is respectable. And he's talking about how these genetically altered kids are now in their early teens, and the problems with the fact that they've been genetically modified and that they are now going to pass forward at the germline genetic level those alterations. It isn't just the research that was done, and he's talking about, by the way, reproductive medicine that was being done at the St. Barnabas Science Laboratory in New Jersey. These kids are now about 13 years of age, and their mitochondrial functions have all been altered. And he talks about how, this is a real problem. It's like genetic, and he actually goes into genetically modified plants and all that. He's right. But that wasn't just, those experiments were repeated in 2008. By the way, they were even repeated this year, 2012. This last year, Oregon Health and Science University, the OHSU, conducted research aimed at producing genetically engineered super babies. People that want to know about that, I can send them the actual OHSU websites, information talking about that. So it's happening all over the world. In fact, recall how this year the Olympics underscored the science. Chinese swimmer Yi Shiwen, remember her? Superhuman-like performance. But that led John Leonard, the director of the World Swimming Coaches Association, to describe this 16-year-old world-setting fetus suspicious, disturbing, unbelievable. His story is still out there. It's still on the Internet. You can Google it and read it. And he said that the authorities that tested Yi Shiwen for drug abuse should have been checking to see if there was something unusual going on in terms of genetic manipulation. And he wasn't alone. Dr. Ted Friedman, who's the chair of the genetics panel of the World Anti-Doping Agency, said he wouldn't be a bit surprised if genetic enhancements are now being secretly used on humans all around the world. So Aldous Huxley's dystopian Brave New World, it's slipping in under most of the public's radar right now. Human prenatal diagnosis, screening fetal genomes, designer children, those were just the first cracks a decade ago in the dam holding back incremental changes due to the human genetic reservoir this century. And experts are now finally starting to admit it. So that's really the bigger question. But is there a place in which human genetic alteration also has a connection to the alien agenda? That's the big question.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. I mean, and when I say that, it sounds like, well, how can he know that? I couldn't know that unless I've been told that. And if the people who tell stuff like that to me can give me bona fide information that I've gotten from 3 different sources, whether it's the scientific, the intelligence, or the military community, the answer is yes, yes, yes. But then it goes back, Tom, to your original question. Are there, if you will, hybrids, Nephilim hybrids on Earth now? Yes. I mean, the whole, listen, this is what's interesting to me. The whole Human Genome Project was never about human genomes in the first place. They conquered that a long time ago. It was to identify, if you will, the Nephilim or fallen angel genetic markers and add it and infuse it into the human race. I think that's what Jesus' words were so amazing. You know, you can read the words of Jesus on a superficial level, but then when you start to see that the depth of the eternal God, it also follows through. And here's what I'm blown away with. The idea is to destroy the entire human genome. You know that. Basically we're a trash product of random chance, and fallen men are going to make some kind of wonderful transhuman, singular automaton that's going to function independently. But it's kind of interesting. What makes everybody think that their brains are free of garbage? The point is, I think that's what Jesus said. It's so amazing. And it's now, at this point, and by the way, this time in history, we're January 13, 2013? Look at that. That's an interesting date. I'm not trying to be, into numbers or anything, but I'm just saying it's interesting. We're in 2013, and we're on January 13th, and usually, Tom, and I'm just saying this because God orchestrates. We get to be the instruments in His symphony, but usually that's indicative of something coming up. Yes, there's Nephilim blood. Yes, that's what the Human Genome Project, it's a lie. It was to identify the Nephilim genetic markers so they can integrate it. You think DARPA doesn't have fun with us? I'm sure that more computers will listen to this and more federal agencies, not just, the three-letter ones, but I'm saying research will be on, and they'll be asking themselves, now, how do those guys know this stuff? Are they guessing it, or are they mocking us because we're missing it?
You and I know that to be a fact. We've done drill downs on who's listening to our shows in the past, and we've had every agency of the United States government listening in. Listen, ask yourself, why did the World Economic Forum, this is the meeting, the WEF that has its annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland. Why is their new report, Global Risk 2013, they're calling on governments to prepare for two things. Number one, genetically altered humans, and number two, prepare for extraterrestrial life contact. I have the full report, and it's astonishing. Now, why would they be combining genetically altered humans with the need to prepare for extraterrestrial life impact? It's because they are connected. In fact, the British Academy, the Royal Academy of Engineering, and the Royal Society produced a narrow joint study in this year, 2012. They produced a study called Human Enhancement and the Future of Work. You probably saw that. And they documented the alarming trend aimed at augmenting humans cognitively and physically. And they warned that we're now entering into a hybrid age. But there's an example from page 26, if you haven't read it, of their work that highlights how people are going to be engineered, Steve, in the near future to have serpentine qualities. Here's just a short excerpt. Participants discussed how this is a short excerpt, these kinds of techniques may in the future aid research into the extension of the range of human vision to include additional wavelengths. We're talking now about infrared technology, a la Mount Graham, the Lucifer device. Back to the quote. Examples exist in animals such as snakes that can detect infrared wavelengths, which might provide a source of research for developing approaches that can be used in humans. Potential applications could be envisioned in the military, but also in other employment, from night watchmen, safety inspectors, gameskeepers, including the possibility of enhanced visions at night, end quote. So the report goes on to assure that tomorrow's snake people not only can see in the dark, but that they are appropriately plugged into the end times grid they serve. They're going to have Borg-like physical digital enhancements like cybernetic implants, advanced machine interfacing technologies. This all according to the leading and oldest scientific body in the world, the Royal Academy, producing their 2012 report called Human Enhancement and the Future of Work, talking about tomorrow's humans being engineered to have serpentine qualities and also being plugged in to the Borg system. So it's coming, and the world better get ready for it. The World Economic Forum is saying they better get ready for it out of Davos. The British Academy is saying it. The Royal Academy is saying it. And Tom Horn and Steve Quayle are saying it. You better get ready. It is coming. And we've only barely scratched the surface of all of the documentations, audio files, and everything else that we will be providing in the April 15th investigative report called Exo Vaticana. And it's literally going to take people by surprise, I think, but highly documented, well-researched. It's not speculative. I'm frankly just not sure that people are going to be ready for what we're going to publish, but we're going to do it anyway, just like we always do, Steve.
Well, that's what you got to do. And, I've got to tell you something. When you talk about and quoted the serpentine, I will quote you the words out of Conan the Barbarian. Sounds to me like just another snake cult. And that sounds simplistic, but isn't it amazing that we see the skulls that were found in Mexico, and they were, quote, they were considered serpentine and almost, they actually said it looked like the head of a snake. We're seeing all of the destruction of the human genome by electromagnetic radiation. Mary just sent me an email, Tom. She said, do you think they could be introducing Nephilim DNA into humans through vaccines? Well, they can be doing it through chemtrail, or let's just call it genetic trail spraying. I mean, they can do a lot of stuff, but here's what the report you quoted earlier. Genetically modified food is designed to change the human genome. We are what we eat. And as you get the, and you know this too, as you then introduce a mutagenic form of electromagnetic radiation or infrasonics, you can then mutate even your recombinant DNA if you want. So what we've got here is we've got the siren's cry to destroy the DNA, and instead of a double helix, who knows if they want a triple helix or a half a helix. But the point is that they're working overtime to destroy the last seed of Adam, and you know that was the whole point. And you covered it wonderfully, Tom. Noah and his family were the only genetically pure stock. They certainly weren't morally pure, but God still was able to raise up a lot of people from he took it down to 8 people, didn't he? Before he, did the flood. So the remnant is going to be very small. Vaccines are the kiss of death. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, just on the flu that's out there, ask yourself this: how can it be so many cases in the United States so quickly, and then another outbreak in, I think, France, 430,000 people? We are in the times that Jesus spoke about, and the entire transhumanism, it's nothing more than the devil's ultimate and total destruction of humanity and trying to make the Word of God to no effect. I mean, isn't that truly the bottom line, Tom?